Hey everyone, and welcome to another fragrance review. Thank you so much for tuning in. This time we're going to be taking a look at a fragrance from the house of Lomani. And this fragrance is a 2014 release and it's called Ab Spirit Silver. So released just this year. I know there is no perfumer listed online for this fragrance. The research that I've done, I figured out that the parent company for this one is one called Parfums Parure of Paris. So of course they have, Paris attached to their name, so that already adds a little bit of prestige to the company, if you will, knowing that it's coming from France. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, I know that that is certainly the company that created the fragrance, but I think that there are a lot of things that are really working toward it achieving its popularity, comparisons to other fragrances that it smells like, the history of the company, of course. Parfums Parure, I believe that company was established, if my research is correct, in 1986. It wasn't until the following year, 1987, when they helped Lomani in creating Lomani Pour Homme, which was the very first fragrance that they released. Some people say it smells similar to other classic men's fragrances containing lavender, the like of Taxi and Drakkar Noir. And then eventually they continued making fragrances following the popularity of that one. They made a bunch of men's fragrances, a bunch of women's fragrances catered to both crowds, and now they have like 43 or definitely over 40 fragrances in their database. So it's crazy how many fragrances that they've made in the past 30 years or so, but still I think it's a very relevant number. But with this fragrance, this is actually the third fragrance of which they've released this year, and I think it's a really nice fragrance. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in a little bit. So this company basically, yeah, they've been releasing a lot of fragrances, and the thing with this company is that many of their fragrances smell like other popular fragrances. So with this one, it's called Ab Spirit Silver. I know they have Ab Spirit, the original, Ab Spirit Black. They have another one called Ab Spirit Millionaire, which, as you're probably able to guess, smells very similar to Paco Rabanne's 1 Million. So, a lot of their fragrances, with even the original, Lomani Pour Homme, they smell very similar to popular designer fragrances. So I think it didn't really come as a surprise to many that this one also bears resemblance to a very popular fragrance, albeit not a designer, it's a niche, but nevertheless it still smells similar to it. So basically, as far as the name goes, Ab Spirit Silver, we know that this is a flanker, so if you want this one, make sure that somewhere on the box, or aluminum tin I should say, it says silver on there. But basically the AB, I remember the very first time that I heard about this in Lionel Wood's videos. Thank you, for tuning me into this and turning me on to it. Ab, I thought it was an abbreviation for abdominals, kind of like the marketing of, if you spray this fragrance on, women are going to chase you down the street, which is totally not true. But for some reason I kind of like put together abdominal muscles and kind of like indirect marketing or subliminal marketing, I don't know. And then I did a little bit of research, and then I think that the AB is not actually an abbreviation but an acronym. So I think it stands for, well, basically there are two very popular film superstars or film stars who have commissioned the help of Lomani in creating their own scents. One of them I know is an Iranian film star. The other one is an Indian film star by the name of Amitabh Bachchan. And he's done many Bollywood movies. He's been around for a very long time. He actually made his American debut in Baz Luhrmann's The Great Gatsby with Leonardo DiCaprio. So those of you who have seen that movie, he actually played the role of Mayor Wolfsheim, who is Jewish in the movie, but in real life he's Indian. So he actually reached out to Lomani, they made him his own fragrance, and then I think that that fragrance was very popular just because a celebrity's name was attached to it, so they ended up keeping his name or his initials, AB, Amitabh Bachchan, and they kept releasing fragrances with his initials in it, I guess hoping that they would sell or be more popular than if they did not contain his initials in them. So basically, bottom line, this is a fragrance that smells very similar, or according to other people, it smells similar to a fragrance from the House of Creed called Aventus. Now we know that that fragrance is very, very popular. It's probably the most hyped, the most talked about fragrance in the fragrance community. So I'm going to let you know what I think and if I get the resemblance. But next up, let's take a look at the presentation of Lomani's Ab Spirit Silver. Ab Spirit Silver by Lomani is available in one size, and that is the 100 milliliter bottle. this fragrance is only available in Eau de Toilette concentration. So first up, let's take a look at the box. This here is actually an aluminum tin. Really nice looking stuff. It has a pretty cool logo here. Keep in mind, everything here is embossed. You can't really see it popping out, but everything here has a texture to it. It's embossed. This is actually a sticker that's put on there with a glossy kind of a finish to it. Actually, really nice presentation. A lot of attention to detail, especially considering, you know, this little flap thing here that you pull on the side. Spirit written on the side, Ab Spirit written at the top, and then you have all of your information over here at the bottom with Parfums Peror, the company from which it comes over here on the back, your ingredients, and really nice presentation, pertinent information at the very bottom. And this actually does open up. You pull this tab, it opens up, and here on the inside you have this yeah, kind of like advertisement here on the inside. I thought this was a booklet initially, very much like a DVD, but yeah, this is actually printed on there. I think it might be a little bit cheesy, but other than that, I think it's kind of cool. I've never seen this before in a fragrance presentation. And then over here on the inside, it has this faux felt material on the inside. Not quite as fancy as the Insurrection bottles, but still really nice presentation nonetheless, and the bottle fits in there very nicely. It does not move around from side to side, so I like that about it. As far as the bottle for this fragrance goes, here you have it. It says Ab Spirit here on the front. This is also embossed. It pops out, and then you even have the AB carved in there. Really nice attention to detail. Lomani also embossed down here on the glass. A sticker with some pertinent information on the very bottom, and then you have this pattern, you know, following its way into the back, the AB. The top here says Lomani Paris. There's my face, and this comes off, and yeah, basically nothing inside the cap. The sprayer for this one gives you really good distribution. It doesn't spray out too much juice, but still I think the application is pretty good. And then you have Ab Spirit Silver rewritten here in the front. Really nice presentation on this fragrance. And yeah, that has pretty much been the presentation for Ab Spirit Silver by Lomani. So what I get from this fragrance when you first spray it is you're not really going to get too much citrus. I know it has assorted citrus listed as notes, and there are many top notes in this fragrance, but like bergamot, assorted citrus, I don't really get too much of that. I guess there's a very mild citric quality, but it's in no way the star player, and it never has too dominant of a presence. I guess this is a citrus based fragrance, or it does have a citrusy introduction in the strictest sense of the word, because it contains a note of pineapple, and pineapple I think is a very strong citrus note, of course, and in this fragrance you do get a lot of pineapple, which I think is what allows the comparisons to be made with this fragrance and Aventus. Rather than that, I think this fragrance is actually in between Creed's Aventus, but also Bond9.com. I think that this fragrance is the happy medium, or it's actually the fine line between these two fragrances. The reason I say that is because the pineapple in this fragrance, it doesn't smell, you know, as natural as the pineapple that you get in Aventus, and I'll try not to make this a comparison video. It doesn't smell as natural, but again, it doesn't really smell, and for the price, you would expect that it's about $30, but it also doesn't smell chemically either. It's actually a really nice smelling pineapple note, and I have to give it that. But at the same time, there's almost like this candied sweetness to it. Now, I know that with the Bond9 fragrance, it's actually very sweet. It's a very candied sweetness that you get in that fragrance. This one is like the fine line, or the happy medium between those two. So it's not too natural, it's not really chemically per se, but it also isn't too sweet. Now, the sweetness in this fragrance, and I hate to say it because it doesn't smell like this fragrance at all, but the sweetness at least reminds me of Paco Rabanne's 1 Million. Now, they're not the same fragrance in any way, they're not even similar to each other, but that sweetness, there has to be some note, some aroma chemical that's shared between them. I think it may be coumarin, which is found in tonka beans, which kind of gives it like that nutty smell with a vanillic overtone. I think that's what's allowing me to make that connection. But at the same time, yeah, it just has a sweetness that's very much unlike Aventus. Now, do I think this is similar to Aventus? Yes, this is very similar to it. Even more similar than Fresco by Lomani. And I know Insurrection Pure is also quite similar to it as well. I really can't, I'm having a hard time telling which one is more similar. this one or Insurrection Pure. All I can say is that I know it's very hard to find Insurrection Pure in stores now, so if you missed that hype train, just hop aboard this one. It's still going to the same place. So with this fragrance, yeah, it opens up with that pineapple-y sweetness in the introduction. I do get a bit of vanilla, and I think it comes through rather strongly. It could be vanilla, tonka bean, you know, one of those two. Even though tonka bean isn't listed as a note, amber is. I don't really get too many resins out of this fragrance, but what I do get, and I think this is a secondary note, and it almost becomes a primary note in the dry down, is the note of moss, oak moss. And I know that's a note that's listed in the original Aventus. Now, the funny thing is that many fragrances like Polo by Ralph Lauren, Sombra Negra by Yosh, usually fragrances that contain oak moss, they also contain leather. And this fragrance does contain both oak moss and leather, as does Aventus. Now, the thing that people like about this fragrance, and that I also like quite a bit, is that with Aventus, it opens up rather smoky. Of course, it all depends on which batch you get, but it does open up with a smoky smell, which gives it this contemporary masculine twinge. And with this fragrance, you also get a bit of a smokiness to it, but birch tar is not listed as a note. You have the other notes like apple, black currant, even jasmine, and some of the other florals that are found in Aventus, but in this fragrance, they don't have birch tar. But there is something that's smoky about it. So what I'm going to say, it's either the oak moss, the leather, or a combination of the two. Now, I don't really get too much leather from this fragrance. I do get this green mossy quality to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it's probably the oak moss that's coming through. Now, as it starts to dry down, I do get some woods in the background. But again, it doesn't smell overly natural. Basically, bottom line, this is a fragrance that smells very similar to Aventus. It doesn't smell quite as natural as Aventus, so what I'm going to say is that it's not a very good, it's not a replacement by any means, but I think it's a hell of a substitute. I think it's a really great fragrance, especially considering that it's only 1/10 the price. So I know when I did my review of Insurrection Dark, I said it smelled very similar to Victor and Rolf Spice Bomb. So similar that, you know, I might as well just wear Spice Bomb. Well, with this fragrance, I might as well just wear this fragrance because of the price difference. So because of that, you know, pretty intense gap in price, I would not want to waste Aventus, so I would be more inclined to wear this one, especially considering that I think this might actually be the best knockoff of Aventus in stores right now, especially considering that the price on it is still pretty low. Of course, with popular demand and inflation, it has the potential to go up. So, you know, if you're looking for a good Aventus clone or a substitute for Aventus, I think this is the way to go. Definitely have to agree with that. Have I worn this fragrance outside of testing? Yeah, absolutely. I finished testing about a day or two ago, but I can definitely foresee myself wearing this in the future, especially because it's so versatile. The performance, it does leave a little bit to be desired, but it is a very versatile fragrance, and that's pretty much the bottom line. It's a great alternative to Aventus. It opens up with that pineapple-y sweetness. It's a little bit sweeter than Aventus in my opinion. I think the moss or the oak moss plays a secondary role. It's still quite strong in this fragrance. Dries down to some woods. It does have the vanilla character to it, and it doesn't quite have that floral heart that Aventus does. For me, it comes across quite strongly, as does the citrus in the opening. That's really the only two things that, in my opinion, were stripped from this fragrance, but other than that, it's very, very similar to it, but not a replacement. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Last up, we have the rating. Take care. First up, we have uniqueness and overall smell, and I ended up giving this fragrance a 6 out of 10. Now, you know, the reason why I didn't give this too higher of a score is because of the resemblances that it does have to Aventus. And when you look at all these other fragrances out there that have gotten compared to Creed Aventus, this one definitely does lack aesthetic merit, you know, and I think that the uniqueness and the creativity is really to be awarded to Aventus. So this one is really an imposter or a knockoff, if you will. So much so that I'm inclined to believe that this may be the product of reverse engineering. Now, even if that's the case, like I said, this is a great alternative to Aventus. So the smell itself is still a very good one. I can definitely see somebody getting compliments with this fragrance. I have gotten compliments with this fragrance. I asked my girlfriend what she thought. She loved it. She did say that to her it didn't smell like Aventus though, and she loves Aventus, but then she also loved this fragrance. So anyway, make of that what you will. But great smell. I think it lacks uniqueness, which is why I took off so many points. And yeah, other than that, I just like the freshness of Aventus. I don't think this one smells as natural. Took off a point for that too, bringing it down to a 6 out of 10. Next up, we have longevity. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Longevity on this fragrance is okay. It's an eau de toilette concentration. 4 to 6 hours is expected, and I do get 5 hours, so I ended up giving it a 5 out of 10. Next up, we have projection. I ended up giving this fragrance a 4 out of 10. Now, I remember I sprayed it on the back of my hand, and I was smelling it within an arm's length for about an hour or an hour and a half, and then it really started sitting close to the skin, to the point where I would have to bring my arm up about this close before I was able to smell it. So I feel like with this fragrance, it does very quickly become a skin scent. I think that the projection is a little bit below moderate, so that's a little bit of a disappointment. But considering the price tag, this is a fragrance in which you can afford to over apply or reapply throughout the day. So I do think that it has that monetary or that financial benefit working in its advantage. So I ended up giving it a 4 out of 10 for projection. Next up, we have versatility. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 9 out of 10. Because I think that the oak moss note is a little bit more amped up in this composition, this is more, to me, it's more of a masculine fragrance. So it doesn't have that unisex quality to it just quite. But I think it's versatile in terms of occasions. You know, it's so affordable, you can wear it casually. It's a little bit sweeter than Aventus, like I said, so I can see this one being more of like a nighttime fragrance, but you can also wear it in shirt and tie, semi-formal, formal, upper class. And I think this could work year-round. Because of the performance, I do think it would work a little bit better in the hotter seasons, but you can definitely wear this one in the winter, especially if you reapply. And I just think it's a great, very, very versatile fragrance. And then last up, we have presentation. It was really hard to calculate a score for this one because it has many things working for it, some things working against it, but honestly, the presentation on this one is just really, really nice, especially considering how much of a step up it is from Ilum Deem's Fresco. It's not just a cardboard box with the letters printed on there and then they're actually like fading off from the bottle, as are mine on my Fresco bottle. So actually the presentation on this one is quite good. I ended up giving it a 9 out of 10, and then that brings this fragrance to an overall rating or an average score of 7 out of 10. To be honest with you, and in just the interest of full disclosure, if Aventus did not exist and this were the very first fragrance to do that combination of notes, this could very easily earn a 9 out of 10 from me. But because having that knowledge that Aventus is already in existence, and this one is a blatant copycat of Aventus and may even be the product of reverse engineering, I really couldn't bring myself to give it more than a 7 out of 10. But yeah, just keep that in mind. This is actually a really good fragrance, great substitute for it. So guys, thank you so much for watching. That was my review of Lomani's Ab Spirit Silver. If you own or have tried this fragrance, please let me know what you think by leaving a comment down below. Also, please don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to shoot me a message, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Steven with another fragrance review from Red Essence. See you soon.